Alrighty, we're all here. Hey everybody, welcome back. It's Friday. Pasta's on location in Minneapolis, and Matt all the way in LA, and I'm right here in South America. We're international, baby. International team.
Don't call me baby.
I wasn't calling you baby. I was calling the audience baby.
Fam.
Be clear.
And don't call me Shirley.
You can't be serious.
God. Anyway.
Go ahead,
what
fam.
a wonderful Friday, guys. So we're here. We're gonna start with some breaking news, and we're gonna start right away because we're on a time crunch today, and a lot of us are doing a lot of things right now. So a lot of things going on. Like I said, guys, this month started very, very rapidly. There's been endless escalations all over the world between Trump's foreign policy and the domestic policy merging. And this merger that I talked about with an interview yesterday is extremely pivotal, I think, for where we're going in the world as a whole. So let's get started. Matt, you were talking about breaking news right now, journalists being attacked at the very moment because of this very issue with ICE. Can we go to that, Jayme? Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I didn't get to see very much of it, just the headlines.
Yeah, so far it seems that the big story is that Don Lemon was arrested, and there were people sharing that out earlier, why that happened. He's here in LA right now. I think he was covering a Grammy event, and they just came, federal agents just came and got him. Now, we knew that there was Trump's team was trying to go after him for these last couple of weeks. Why? Because he was in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, at the church. If you guys remember the church event that occurred where the people had showed up, there was a big protest. One of the pastors was an ICE official that was also a pastor, and they came in there to protest. He was there. So it's hard to say, like, people didn't know exactly that. Is this related to that incident? Well, it turns out it looks like most likely 95% it is related to that incident. They came to LA to get him, but there's other journalists now being targeted. And I think we need to look at this and start connecting the dots, because there's a journalist in Minnesota right now who's got arrested this morning, same time. So this is, but let's look at the Don Lemon one first. But yes, he's officially been arrested. Now, this story is interesting because it looks like that it didn't matter if a judge threw this case out. Trump was trying to make a deal about him these last 2 weeks, but they did it anyway. So they overrode a federal. His team overrode it. That said that it doesn't matter what they say in court. We're going to get him anyway. So that's where we are now. People are trying to figure out, well, what did he do other than cover this event? Went in there, interviewed some people, and did what I think basic journalism is. Now we're not fans of Don Lemon from previous work, but make no mistake, if you're arresting journalists, there's a problem, even if you disagree with their politics and ideology, or even intention. But if you're going out and interviewing people and getting arrested for that, we have a problem.
I think the breaking news, by the way, is that Don Lemon is a journalist. That's the breaking news.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. This is what Republicans are going to say, right? They're going to say, well, he's a liberal. He's never been a journalist. He's not credible. Like, this is just some liberal theatrical agenda in order to stir things up against Donald Trump. I mean, that's going to be the narrative. And so I'm wondering, like, is this just like the Democrats trying to exploit the situation? Because we know that the Democrats have been trying to exploit the situation. But you said it's multiple journalists now getting arrested. And the thing is, during the protests over George Floyd, they arrested a lot of journalists, not just myself, but literally they arrested mainstream media. They arrested CNN in LA. They arrested a bunch of MSNBC. They arrested both independent journalists and the legacy media. So it's not surprising to see this happen in LA whatsoever. LA is notorious for that.
Yeah. I think this is more about the religiousness, right? This is infringing on somebody's religious beliefs and religious rights. And really, to tell you the truth, nobody should be making a craziness about this. This should just be a simple, okay, cite these people for trespassing, kick them out, and they're not allowed back in, and move on with our life. But they're just this everything we're seeing is kabuki theater. It's designed to keep us pitted at each other. It's more divisive rhetoric out there. You know what I'm saying? Don Lemon getting arrested, then the left is going to go crazy and start pointing at Donald Trump and see what's going on over here. You know, so this just kind of fires people up. And a lot of people on the right were fired up because it was a church. And, you know, I think years ago when they made that whole thing where you can't protest at an abortion clinic, they also added churches in there as part of the law, I believe. And that's what they're sticking to on this thing. This is more about an infringement on somebody's religious rights is what they're trying to say. Because as we know, the majority of that base is a right-wing Christian base.
Right.
But this is kabuki theater. Plain and simple, guys. This is kabuki theater. This is all theatrics to fire people up. They're trying to fire people up. And, you know, they've been very successful with what's going on with this whole ICE situation, right? So this is more of the same.
I think that we need to, you know, Don Lemon was just kind of got everyone's heads turned. Like you're saying, Craig, it's going to be a left-right battle on what type of person, if Don Lemon's even a journalist or not a journalist, but that's the distraction. Can we go to Jayme? Can we go to the clip of there's another journalist. She's a Emmy Award-winning journalist. She's in Minneapolis right now, and she was able to do a post about the fact that she had ICE agents at her door. Her name's Georgia Fort, and they're taking her in custody, and she was able to do a little post before she was taken away. I think we need to watch this and then really start to process what are we dealing with here. She was also at the church, by the way, that Don Lemon was at.
Do you want to wear my black shoes?
You guys, I wanted to alert the public that agents are at my door right now. They're saying that they were able to go before a grand jury sometime, I guess, in the last 24 hours, and that they have a warrant for my arrest. I've talked to my attorney, and I'm being advised to go with them, I guess, down to Whipple. And my children are here. They're impacted by this. This is all stemming from the fact that I filmed a protest as a member of the media. We are supposed to have our constitutional right of the freedom to film, to be a member of the press. I don't feel like I have my First Amendment right as a member of the press because now federal agents are at my door arresting me for filming the church protest a few weeks ago. Again, I don't have a long time here, you guys, but I wanted you to know, for me, agents are at my door right now. My attorney has spoken with them. I did send a relative outside to talk to them. They're showing some type of documentation, apparently, that they got an indictment from a grand jury. I knew that I was on a defendant's list. I did not publish it because it was under seal. And so we've done everything that we can to try and abide by, you know, the advice of our attorneys. But right now, you guys, I wanted you to know I'm going to have to hop off here and surrender to agents as a member of the press. I filmed the church protest a few weeks ago, and now I'm being arrested for that. It's hard to understand how we have a constitution, constitutional rights, when you can just be arrested for.
No, play their end. They're going to take
for being a member of the press. We've seen all these violations. All right, you guys, I got to go. They're knocking.
Yep, she's coming right now.
Give me 1 second. All right, guys.
You want to?
Okay. All right. That was nothing. Same thing. She's kind of repeated the same shit over and over again. Like, the shame about this whole situation that this is coming to light now. Fiorella and Johnny were arrested for covering a protest in LA years ago. And we've constantly seen them arresting members of the press all the time. We were in Chicago and we were there. Remember, people were screaming, "Why are you arresting press? Why are you arresting press?" They do this all the time. So it is a little bit of a shame that it has to be some high profile people for people to get this attention, because this is something that's been going on for quite some time.
Yeah, but they get lawsuits kicked back. But what I want to highlight is this shouldn't be going on at all. And the thing is, like, they've done it before, as Pasta said, but that doesn't make it okay for them to continue doing it. And like I said, it really was selected to major corrupt police forces a lot of the times, where they decided to say that, you know, you were helping the protesters or you were doing something. To arrest people for filming protests is the utmost, like, it's just completely destroys the First Amendment. It destroys freedom of the press. It destroys anything to do with that. And people should be aware of it, regardless of how they feel about mainstream media or any of these people. Like, it should not be happening. And the fact that it's happening in the background of everything else that's happened with Alex Pretti, ICE, and with the expanded powers of ICE agents, and all of that, to me, just actually signals a shift. And also, like, yeah, I think there is fear mongering going on. They're trying to get people to like take sides, but at the same time, what is happening is real, right? Let's not forget that people are actually being arrested, that people are actually being killed, that people are actually being targeted by ICE agents. Let's not forget that ICE is using the elite Palantir system in their devices to surveil, target, and find the protesters and the people that are supposedly undocumented or are, you know, breaking the law in some way, and targeting them. So let's not forget that that's also involved, and where we're going with that.
Yeah, I have to piggyback on that because, Craig, you're right. The journalists have been arrested. This isn't the first time we're seeing this, but this is the first time we're seeing it with this type of technology. The hunting down, the surveillance state at this level where we're having this, like Fee said, the Palantir technology elite app. We're all getting put in a database. There's the domestic terrorist threat. Everyone's a domestic terrorist that holds a phone to an ICE agent now. So the fact that they can track you down at any point, this happens to be 2 weeks since the church event. But, you know, fast forward another month, another 2 months, coming after whoever they want, knocking on doors anytime. This is a new strategy that isn't about just gathering you up because you happen to be at a chaotic event and they just went around and arrested whoever they could get. This is like targeted, you know, days and weeks and maybe months later. So this system they're putting together, this is no joke. We've been talking about this supercomputer. We've been talking about, you know, digital IDs. It's all coming to fruition right now. And to see journalists going down in this regard, I think we haven't seen anything at this level of sophistication that we're seeing now. It's only going to get worse if we don't, you know, be very loud about this.
Yeah, and I want to just point out that even though Donald Trump signed over with the next contract with Palantir, which is, I believe, the first software they used, it was a spyware called Graphite, and it came from Paragon Solutions. That first contract was signed in 2024 under Joe Biden. It was a small contract, but then it was expanded, and then Palantir came in, and I think they called it Immigration iOS or something to that magnitude. But this is like that, very much like that Pegasus software we've talked about, where it can turn your phone into a microphone even when it's off, and they can infringe on your civil liberties. And right now they're just geo-mapping everything. They're putting us all on the grid. And that is the scary part about what's going on, because it really is not about the immigrants. They're using the immigrants to implement this track and trace system, right? This one world government track and trace system to make sure that they have us all on the grid, not just the immigrants. That's the scary part about this whole thing. And that's not what's being talked about at all in the media.
Yeah. Oh, I absolutely agreed. I think there needs to be more of a focus on that. Let's go ahead and talk about the ICE thing, Jayme, section 3, since we're already talking about ICE, because I think while you're here, Pasta, I want to cover all the on the ground stuff. Let's start off by this video that we're talking about, that the right have been pushing a lot. This video that apparently for many justifies what happened to Alex Pretti, right? That he was an instigator, that he had long been going after police, that he had been long trying to fight with police, and therefore he got what was coming to him, is literally some of the things people are saying. Quote, he got what he deserved. He was looking for this. And in this video, it's supposedly, because there were a lot of questions around this video, like, is it real or not? Because nowadays with AI, you can have a very convincing video and it ends up being a deep fake, not a real video, but apparently it was verified to be real. You know, for me, what this says is that if he was already targeted by law enforcement in one way or another, and he was having this relationship with law enforcement, the fact that he ended up dead signals some sort of like targeting of him, some sort of premeditation, some sort of like follow through. It doesn't really signal to me that he deserved to die because he spit on a car or because he kicked it. I think, you know, at worst he should have been arrested, because they can argue that's against federal property. You're instigating blah blah blah. They could arrest him. They could have arrested him. They didn't arrest him, which I find odd. And I don't know how this is being used to justify the fact that he was shot in the back after he was unarmed completely. And he was just shot and held by several agents. So I don't see how you go from maybe, yeah, he was emotional and, you know, instigating. And I've known people like this. Paulson, I have in my mind, right, somebody that has been exactly like this.
AW.
He would go and just like go up to the cops, go try to like fight with them and blah blah blah. And then he eventually did get arrested. Because he would just instigate like that. And oftentimes that's just reacting with your emotions. You know, you may mean like you care, right? You care, you have an emotional reaction to this. It's a very human thing to do. But if you're going to be in these protests nowadays, you got to watch out for that. That doesn't mean that they were justified in what they did, though. That's a long ways away from that.
No. Go ahead, play the video, Jayme.
Yeah. Play.
Look at you! Pepper spray, bitch! Fucking something, motherfucker! Fucking fuck you guys! Fucking trash!
And he was saying something about pepper spraying. So there's just something to piss this guy off. You know what I'm saying? If they were throwing pepper spray, and we, you know, fam, I remember the first time we were in Portland, I got pepper sprayed. I was cursing, screaming at the officers. I mean, they were further away. I was like, you motherfuckers, like we're off to the side and press, and we are getting hit. By the way, fam, I think that this is important really quickly to show this. Here, let me add this to the state thing. Jayme, I don't know why it's not adding, but no, that's not it. No. Let me take your thing off real quick. Let me add mine. Thank you. I don't know if you saw it. It says Black Lives Matter, RIP tail light. We'll get our revenge next week. And you can see a bunch of Trumpers down by the tail light with candles crying. It's a sad situation, guys. Just wanted to show that.
I mean, look, Matt, go ahead. I just want to hear your thoughts on
that. So this is the precedent. I just want to be clear, because you have an obviously a reason to take fee you just gave, which is this shows probably intent to hunt him down and seek revenge. That's what this when you see this video, you're like, he didn't get arrested. Fast forward 11 days and you target this guy. You have the technology to do it. You can easily say, oh, that's the guy. Boom. You got they're wearing these glasses. They can do, you know, facial recognition. Boom, we got him. So this is this definitely intent. We can definitely lean that direction. At the same time, we see what we see from all the Alex Joneses and all the other people. They're like, we got him. This is a clear indication that the guy has a personality that needed to be dealt with, and he got what was coming. And we see that everyone's doing that on the MAGA side. And it's fascinating to me that they're doing this, but we knew this was coming. This was a precedent set by J.D. Vance, Kristi Noem, when Renee Good was murdered. The precedent was, let's talk about character. Let's talk about what group they were part of. Let's talk about her friend and how loud and obnoxious she. So these conversations doesn't matter. I don't care what group you're part of. I don't care how annoying you are. I don't care what your personal life is like. You can't justify murdering somebody on purpose and shooting them in the head 3 times if you're Renee Good, or in this case, in the back several times. A couple of these ICE agents shooting Alex Pretti in the back several times, and that whole narrative that his gun went off and that was a that didn't happen. We looked at the footage. This was absolutely intentional. So they set a precedent to have their base talk about personality and going too far with a headlight. Like, so we get murdered for knocking in somebody's headlight. Does that make any sense at all? Of course it doesn't make any sense, but that's where they are. And they're looking at this video that comes out about the 11 days before. They're saying, we got him. And they're sharing it. And to add salt to the wound, they're insinuating that people that are on Alex Pretti's side, on the side of the ICE protesters, are all like scrambling to say, this video is incriminating. No, it's not incriminating of him. It's incriminating of this ICE, these terrorists that have literally hunted people down to seek revenge for previous actions. So that's what we're seeing here, and the divide is bigger than we've ever seen before. And I don't think you can convince people of otherwise. This is literally a war of two different mindsets: the mindset of humanity and the mindset of whatever this other thing is that got this base to all of a sudden be against guns and be against the things that they believed in. It's unbelievable to me. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. I think they're trying to get us into a civil war. So eventually they can get us all like mice into a corner and like just control everybody. And then at that moment, that's when you will get more unity, because that's honestly, like, I don't see how we could be united at this point when you have people like that. However, I do think that those are the loudest voices online, but I think the majority of people are not as in the United States, based on, I've lived in the United States, in the South, in the Midwest, in the Northeast, and in the West. I just don't, I don't think the majority of people are that far out. I don't think there's as many people that think like these people. I think the image that the media and certain aspects of the deep state want to portray is that it is the majority of people that are this divided, but I actually think it's not. And I just think that they're the loudest voices and you're right. It is a battle of, I honestly think, evil, because to try to justify this murder makes you evil. And we can sit here till we're blue in the face and talk about the logic, but the logical aspect, the data-driven aspect, went out the window anyway. So it doesn't matter at this point if you sit and discuss it. Like, they're like, no, it's fake, it's a fake video. He had his gun. Like, they believe something that they're told because it's Donald Trump. And this is why Donald Trump, by the way, is the one that this is happening under, because he had all the people that like duped that he was gonna take on the surveillance state, the deep state, the globalists, protect free speech, protect the Second Amendment. And he's literally doing the opposite of that. And some of these people are still following every word he says.
There was a journalist from Real Voice America who went to the memorial site and was like doing a video from there. Like, I mean, regardless of what's going on, it was really disgusting. It was like, I'm praying for the ICE agents and stuff. You're out in front of this guy's kind of like, memorial. And those are the people that are following him and go along with every single word that Donald Trump says. I would like to point out that I think that they did put their foot in their mouth. And I think Kristi Noem and Stephen Miller, I don't think Stephen Miller is going to face any whiplash, but you might see Kristi Noem removed from her post eventually, because calling him a domestic terrorist, because even though there are videos of Alex Pretti out there now kicking in the taillight, spitting at an agent, we don't know what happened beforehand. I heard him yell something about pepper spray, and that could have fucking set him off. And I'm saying, that's just bullshit. These guys are going around illegally pepper spraying people when their lives aren't in danger, just to be, to harass and bully people, and that's illegal, right? That's that they should be able to be pulled off the street. But you also see videos of Alex Pretti in a veterans hospital saying a prayer after a veteran died. I met somebody in the streets the other day, and he was like, Alex Pretti took care of me. I'm a veteran, and he was my guy inside the veterans hospital. He didn't want to talk about it anymore because he was so worked up. But they had said that this guy, if an ICE agent went down and got shot in the stomach, Alex Pretti would have been down there taking care of him. Like, he was just that type of guy. The nurses that work with him say the same thing. So they overstepped their boundaries. And then finally, 2 days ago, they finally put those people on administrative leaves, the people who shot them. Like, at first, they were just going to transfer them off, whatnot. Now, 2 days ago, on the 28th, they put them on administrative leave. So I think there is some type of backtracking right now, but I want to know how far that's going to go. I think the placing Tom Hooman here in Minnesota and getting rid of Gregory Bavino is a signal they're trying to send to say, okay, we went a little bit too far. Let's digress. But at the same time, the Trump administration still has to double down and act like ICE, everything they're doing was legit, and same with all people, because they don't want to look weak, like they're caving in. So this is a very interesting dance they're playing over here.
Yeah, fam, and you also talked to some of these people on the ground. Can you just give you have a tweet here where you said you thought Donald Trump was targeting the worst of the worst, yet it seems his federal agents, especially ICE, are entering McDonald's and other restaurants, racially profiling workers and then arresting them over minor issues. But please go ahead and tell me I'm wrong for opposing these Gestapo-like tactics in our street.
Yeah. Well, this is a short video, and we can play it really quickly and just see. He didn't want to show his face, but yeah, literally go ahead and you can see like this guy, there was no warrant. He wasn't the worst of worst. He was changing the garbage in McDonald's. They walked in, racially profiled him, and arrested him. And off the camera, like I heard somebody say, not this kid, and when I asked him the question about, I heard that your father might be deported, you can't see his face because he turned the other way. He was about to break out into tears. I mean, we're destroying families here. I mean, this is what the Christians in the country are all good with. It's sad, really, when you look at this. But please play the video, and then we can talk about it after. How you doing? Craig Pastor-Jardula here at the Federal Whipple Building. We have a situation where a gentleman, I'm going to let him explain to you. We're going to keep his name anonymous for the time being, but he has a family member that was abducted by ICE. Can you tell us a little bit about your story and what happened?
Yeah, my dad was just working his normal day-to-day job, throwing the garbage out in the lobby, when an ICE agent went inside and singled him out and grabbed him and took him yesterday around 2 p.m.
So he was working in a restaurant, and an ICE agent just came in there, identified that he was a man of color, Latino, and then grabbed him off the streets. Didn't have a warrant or anything.
That I believe so? No warrant.
No warrant.
Yeah.
So what's been going on now with your situation? Have you heard what's going on with your father? Because I also heard he had some health issues, and you wanted to help get him maybe some medication. It was difficult to do that.
Yeah, since yesterday I was trying to give him his medication, but an ICE agent, I gave it to an ICE agent, but he just smirked at me, and that gave me like a sign saying that he wasn't going to give it to him because he was like basically laughing in my face. And today I came back around 6 or 7 in the morning, and I've been out here ever since trying to find help. And I found two doctors that would help me bring in the medication for my dad. And we all walked in there and we successfully gave him the medication.
How did you find these two people to help you?
I was just out here at the Whipple building. People are out here protesting, and I walked up to a couple people, and they pointed me to a few directions where I could go to get some help.
So this was like random help. You were just desperate. You were just wanting to help your father out, and you just spoke to some people, and some people guided you along the way to some people who helped?
That's correct.
So what has happened since you've gotten this help?
Ever since I got the help, we've been in the building. We got my dad his medicine, and I was able to talk to him, but they're not allowing visitation. So I don't know how he is physically, but I just know that he's in there and he sounds like he's doing all right.
So what is the plans? Did they tell you what they're going to do? Are they going to release him? They're going to deport him? What did they say they're going to do?
They're not releasing any information out to me. I keep asking them. They're not saying anything at all.
Have they? I heard there was some news that they said they were going to deport him tomorrow. Is that true? Have you gotten any information that way?
I don't want to answer that.
You don't have to answer that. Thank you so much. I understand. So what is the next step? You're just going to stay out here until you can maybe see your father, till you can make sure that he's gotten help?
Yeah, I'm going to stay out here until I make sure my dad is 100% good and he's got the help he needs.
Hey, it's just, I mean, that's some sad situations. He didn't want to comment on it because it was too hard for him to comment on, right? And there was talk out there by some of the people. And the fact is, when he went in to give his father's medication, the way the ICE agent smirked, I mean, these people, we saw from the Gregory Bovino video, right? This is our town. They believe that these people are criminals and they have no rights, all immigrants. And there's no due process in this situation. It's very hard. I'm very thankful that those doctors and the two lawyers went in there and said, we need to give him this medication. Do you want another story on your hand where you didn't let medical help to somebody who was dying? You know what I'm saying? And they gave him his medication. So, I mean, I'm glad that happened. But this is what we're facing right now. And this is not what we were told would happen. We have a lawless Gestapo tactic organization running around the streets, going into McDonald's and taking away workers. That's sad. That's just sad.
And can we stop with this idea that there's this bad apple problem in our policing, bad apple problem in the way we conduct these type of quote unquote investigations and trying to abide by the law? This is not a bad apple problem. This is a systematic issue with the train. We've been looking at this for years, but well before the ICE raids started. We understand the training our police have. We understand that it comes from the IDF, the Israel formula of you're always in enemy territory. You're always in combat. You're always in shoot first, ask questions never. This is this is not a unique situation to this particular group of ICE agents that are smirking when they take people away, and you have a son saying, hey, can you give my medication to my dad? And they smirk. It's not an individual bad apple problem. It's a systematic issue. We have to do something about the overall construct of this. So what do we do about that? Well, we've traced it back to ICE. We know, or ICE to the IDF. We know that's where the training is coming from. We know that's where the technology is coming from. So this is we have to do something about this. I think that, Craig, having that discussion is very important. We understand why he didn't want to be on camera. There's so many other stories out there. I mean, how do we tell everybody's story? We know Jose Vega had his stepfather arrested by ICE and shipped, states away just to make things hard for him, make things hard for people, create chaos. Again, this is not a bad apple situation. It's a systematic problem.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, Matt, about the IDF, because I was going to say this story this young man was telling Pasta is so similar to the many stories I heard in the occupied West Bank, the occupied Palestinian territories, where people's relatives were taken by the IDF and they were given zero information, zero reason. They were just taken, put in prison, and have been there, some of them for years, and they don't get news, or they have to find ways to get news. And it's kind of eerily similar to the strategies, and it's eerily similar, not coincidentally, but because precisely as Matt said, there is that training, there is that connection, there is that aspect. And this is what I mean when I say, our foreign policy is directly related, because I've been super focusing on foreign policy a lot. And now everything we're doing to these people have been doing is going to be done to everybody here. We already crossed that line. We're already killing our own citizens. Our government is sanctioning these Gestapos, these stormtroopers, to go and kill citizens. And even when they were going after and hurting undocumented people, when they were going after and hurting people that had questionable paperwork or visas, that was already a point where we should have said, no, this is wrong. When they were pulling over American citizens by racially profiling them, we should have said no. And then it escalated, and it's going to keep escalating. And that's the thing where we're at now. How long is it until people are put into concentration camps for X, Y, Z reason? Not because you're not an American citizen, but because you said the wrong thing. And that's where it seems like we're headed. So I think that is the last on that section. Fam, how are you on time?
I got about another 20 minutes, 15 minutes.
Okay. I think we should go to the section on let's just go to section on Latin America, since Pasta's here. Jayme. So the section on Latin America, because I do want to talk about this. This has a lot to do with the immigration issue. Always, we talk about the results of our interventionist policies. Right now, Donald Trump has been bullying Venezuela and Mexico, as far as I know, and I have a few sources when it comes to Venezuela and Mexico. But he is basically forcing these two countries to stop giving oil to Cuba. And he's doing it in different ways. He's going to Mexico and saying, you can't do that. We're not going to allow it. And the president, Claudia Sheinbaum, has said this was a sovereign decision, that this isn't going to happen anymore because the country has decided. But the gas company, it's a state company. So, it does seem like Mexico is being bullied in that way. And from Venezuela's end, what they're doing is any ship that Venezuela is sending is being captured by the United States and sent back. So it is impossible for Venezuela to send something to Cuba because they're being captured, unless they would go into an all-out war in the ocean with the United States. Remember, I don't know if you all remember whether it was with Vanessa or whether it was on another show, but I said if Venezuela stops giving oil to Cuba, right, and Cuba has pretty much no other recourse, they will not succeed in staying, like they're going to fall, and that seems to be the intent in the next less than 2 weeks. I mean, they won't be able to last long with this. When I was in Cuba, there were already long lines.
Yeah, I
and
remember that. Yeah, when we were there together, the long gas lines, it was ridiculous, and a lot of trash on the streets because they couldn't afford the pickups for the garbage trucks to go out there. They would definitely have a fuel shortage, and I'm very scared about this, fam. There are some people in the chat, and there were some people out there saying that Cuba and China, Russia and China need to come to Cuba's aid for this. Do you see that
I'm
happening
sorry, they're
at
not
all?
going to do that. No,
Yeah,
I
please
don't. They're
explain.
not.
Yeah, explain. Yeah.
Russia has said it's very terrible. Maria Zaharova gave a statement condemning what U.S. sanctions on Cuba, condemning the 60-year long blockade, and said this is terrible. We have a relationship with the Cuban people. They said zero about supplying them oil. China hasn't said anything in terms of whether they're going to or not. There is more belief in China. China is essentially the only hope. But the reality is, let's face it right now, Donald Trump and the United States government have Nicolas Maduro in their possession. Venezuela wants to get Nicolas Maduro and Celia Flores back into Venezuela. The Chavistas are still in power, but are the Chavistas calling all the shots? This tells me no. Because if they were, this relationship that Venezuela and Cuba have is literally like up here. And if they were able to do something, they would do it. And the fact that they can't signals to me that, they're not calling all the shots. And this is just very devastating, I think, to everybody that, believes that there's something else happening, that somebody's going to come to the rescue. I'm sorry, but I have a hard time thinking that even China would. It's not within their jurisdiction. Cuba isn't like a pertinent area for them. It's just not. There's no resource necessarily that they could extract. I think they should, in an ideological way, absolutely, right? That's where the tie is, the ideology. But when I say that a lot of these countries are moving pragmatically and not ideologically, this is what I mean. Why hasn't anything been done? Why, if you're ideologically aligned, why aren't you doing anything about this, right? Yeah. And Iran is being attacked right now. Iran is being targeted. So I honestly don't see who could rescue Cuba unless something was worked out in one way or another. And basically, Donald Trump signed an executive order establishing a process to impose tariff goods on anybody providing oil to Cuba. And this is how he is able to do that.
Yeah. Can I also say too as well that and fam, I know you can agree to this too because you know more than most that the American government, the Congress, the Senate, they are anti-Cuban no matter what. Even with Donald Trump coming over there with the full head of gusano steam at his back, at his wind, with all the Florida gusanos pushing him. And I know I said I wouldn't say that word, but this is getting out of hand right now. We have mainly an anti-Cuban government. And there's nobody there sticking for Cuba. I mean, Biden did relax, and so did Obama. Did relax some of the travel, situations, but there was still a blockade. There were still sanctions on them. So overall, we have a government that is not friendly to Cuba whatsoever, and will not forget what happened in the Cuban Missile Crisis. And to me, that's a shame because Diaz-Canel is not Castro. He didn't put those missiles on that island. And they should be able to open up a whole new set of dialogue and relationships and whatnot. And it's great to see the Cuban people in the street pushing back, but I'm so scared for what's to come because they're getting a stranglehold across the country. And when you see pictures of Vladimir Putin with Jelani and you see Russia playing ball, and like Fiorella just said, don't expect them to come rescuing anybody. They're on their own. And their biggest ally and friend was Venezuela. And now that's cut off. It's scary for what's going to happen to Cuba next.
Yeah. And I go ahead, Matt. Go ahead.
No, I was saying this reminds me of, and you mentioned that the timeline's important, right? Because you have Maduro being taken in the first few days of the year. And then you had this very significant moment that happened with Lindsey Graham and Trump on Air Force One, where Lindsey Graham was smirking about Cuba is this close to falling. And he was just salivating where they're going to fall. And it's as if they knew something about that leverage they had. They had Maduro in for these fake drug charges and weapons charges, and they knew that they could leverage that. Is that what is happening with the Chavistas right now? They're saying we need to play this game of chess, and we're willing to do this sacrifice to get our leader back. Is that what's happening? Is that what the? So I'm trying to understand this, but Lindsey Graham seemed to know something that the rest of us didn't, and it was just like that. Yeah, this is happening, and he knew this. This was weeks ago. He knew this was happening, and here you go. Fast forward to now. It doesn't seem like it seems like Cuba's going to be abandoned in this situation, and like you said, like you guys are saying, it doesn't matter what administration's in play. We haven't had Cuba's back the entire way since the Cuban Missile Crisis. Obviously, there's still sour feelings for that.
Fam, can I also ask this question over here too? Because I want you to provide some light to it. There's somebody said I think we keep forgetting that Russia and China are physically on the other side of the earth, and China and Russia can't practically help Cuba or Venezuela. I don't know if I necessarily believe in that comment. I believe they can provide goods and services to them, can surely provide fuel. But do you think there's someone in the United States government that has told the Russian and the Chinese governments, like, listen, I'm going to tell you right now, completely all hands off Cuba. You go near our hemisphere and you try to do anything over there, we're going to get a little crazy. Do you think there's that type of rhetoric over there? And do you think if it was possible, if China and Russia did really want to help Cuba, they have the ability to?
Yeah, I mean, I think absolutely. They're the countries that have the ability to help Cuba. I mean, Russia has had a relationship with Cuba constantly, obviously, mostly since the Soviet Union. And there are monuments of Fidel Castro here. Well, not here, in Moscow.
No.
There are monuments of Hugo Chavez. I mean, these relationships have been there for a while. They have been largely hailed by everybody that believes in multipolarity and BRICS. But the reality is, while they're hailed verbally, when it comes to Russia's actions, Russia doesn't get involved unless it benefits their interests, or if it's like something that they can do, also help, but also win something in return. This is why you saw what happened with Syria. This is why you see what's going on right now with Jolani and the UAE, which honestly, even more than Jolani to me, is signifying where Russia is going, because the UAE, like one of the most pro-Zionist states, used to isolate and attack Iran. Russia's showing that they're welcoming them with literal fanfare, while the U.S. targets Iran. That tells me they're not going to get involved when it comes to Iran, other than to try to strategically find some sort of diplomatic avenue for Iran to give in to U.S. interests. And that tells me that they never want to interfere with Venezuela, and they're not going to interfere with Cuba. I mean, it's just not, it's not in their agenda. It's not in their books. Could they do it? Yeah, but the Venezuelans already knew that about Russia. About China, it's kind of like ideologically they're aligned. Like ideologically, they're supposed to be communists. They're supposed to have like that leftist ideology, that revolutionary ideology. And China is actually the most powerful one that could take on the United States in terms of economic power, in terms of trade, in terms of pretty much all of the tech that they have. So the fact that China isn't tells you the kind of paradigm we're entering is a much more transactional paradigm. So yeah, I don't agree with that comment. They absolutely could. They're just not going to.
And really quickly, to provide some context, fam, when you said about UAE right there now and Russia and stuff like that, even Saudi Arabia, and correct me if I'm wrong, even Saudi Arabia told the United States that they're not going to allow them to use their airspace to attack Iran. But UAE is all on board for it. I mean, that's how hard and deep they go in for the Zionists, the UAE government. So I just want to kind of point that out while Fam was kind of mentioning that, just so people can get the context of what's really going on over here. And it is like, when I saw that picture of Putin and Jolani, it was heartbreaking. I was like, Jesus Christmas, like, how could they do this? But this is where we're at, and I think people have to understand what Russia really is. You know what I'm saying? There's too many people wearing these USSR T-shirts. That is not the country that it is right now. The ideological alignments are not going to save countries like Cuba and Venezuela. They're on their own, and we saw that when things went down the way they went down in Syria. Go ahead, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I want to give a reminder to people about this part's important, as Cuba is quote unquote falling in the next couple of weeks here, what they've done for the medical community of the world, how they invest in healthcare, and they give their medical staff, they give them the resources they need. They go around and help other people in other parts of the world. If you guys remember the Michael Moore film, sicko, where he literally takes people in Florida and sneaks them into Cuba to get healthcare because we don't do it here. So the irony is, and this might not be irony, this might be deliberately punishing them for that where they've invested in. Meanwhile, because as they fall, how are they going to be able to give back in healthcare anymore if their entire economy is gone? So it's a punishment to them for how they've been treated their people versus how we have. And it's here we got like the biggest strike happening right now in Kaiser because they cannot provide decent environments for their patients, and all the CEOs are just taking all the funds and the billions of dollars, and there's the Zionists that own these medical establishments here, and it is interesting timing that's happening here at the same time. We're cheering on. Lindsey Graham's are cheering on the fall of Cuba, and it really goes to show you this method that we have here is completely the opposite. And we need to punish countries like Cuba for trying to do the right thing, especially at a time where so many people need medical attention. And there are so many spikes in all the different ailments we've seen with cancer spikes all over the world and cardiovascular issues. Why are we going in the opposite direction here? And we're punishing Cuba at the same time for what they've done, positive contributions to the medical arena around the globe.
Yeah, and remember Hugo Chavez did that too. He helped out the United States, and the United States they didn't like that.
He provided oil to cold, freezing citizens in New York, and they did not like it at all.
Yeah. So that's a very valid point, Matt, that I think it's probably part of the whole thing. One thing I want to mention about this whole scenario is that the U.S. did issue licenses for oil companies to operate in Venezuela. And Jayme, I know that article doesn't open up, so I'll just talk about it. So they issued a general license expanding the ability for oil companies to operate. This is supposed to be an ease on the sanctions in Caracas, right? And so here's the thing. It's going to expedite the movement of Venezuelan crude oil, including exporting, selling, storing, and refining the oil, as long as the work there is performed by a U.S. entity. And then it's not going to cover upstream crude oil production inside the country, where currently just one U.S. oil company, Chevron, operates under a U.S. license. So, guys, I don't like this. Right there, I understand what Venezuela is doing. I understand where Venezuela is at. They really don't have a choice unless they're going to fight, which they have pretty much let us know that they physically don't have the capability to fight the United States by themselves. And I say by themselves because a lot of people keep saying, "Oh, there's Chinese warships going to help Iran. There's all this stuff." Guys, that's not happening. People are on their own. We don't have a bloc actually opposing the United States. We don't have that. We have people with different interests and different things saying they're allies, but not actually having a defense strategy, a defense pact. If that was the case, then yeah, there would be an alliance. The only alliance that exists right now is the Axis of Resistance, is based on Iran. And that's as you can see, that is the one they are targeting next, because they know that a lot of that depends on Iran. And so, yeah, it's terrible. I mean, once the United States gets in to a country, it is very difficult to get them out.
Yeah.
And they start spreading their tentacles and controlling the entire thing.
And fam, to correct me if I'm wrong, to provide a little context to this, the Venezuelan government went and changed their constitution to make this possible, right? That was what happened with Delcy Rodriguez the other day, I think, in the Venezuelan parliament. They had to make some adjustments to the old Hugo Chavez era in the constitutions to allow these other countries to get in there and get their oil. I believe that something like that did happen.
Yeah. They had to change it. Yeah. They approved a historic reform of the country's hydrocarbon policy.
Yeah.
So yeah. That was done. So yeah, they are playing ball in a way with to maintain power. I understand what they're doing. I just know it's never worked for anybody that's ever done that with the United States. So but
and people are still talking about the whole they allowed Maduro to get captured. I'm still kind of like I don't know where I'm at that whole situation. I'm still kind of like up in the air because I don't know the depths of it. Guys, I have to go. I have to get ready to get in the streets for the protest. So I have to get downstairs and get in an Uber and get over to the location. They're already on site setting up. So I'm going to leave you two at it. I don't know how much time you got, Matt, but as long as you can hang out with Fee and have a great show.
Yeah.
I wish you both the best of luck. People go to my Twitter at YoPasta. Fee's going to be sharing some stuff out there too, hopefully on our TruthWire Twitter. I don't know if you can share some stuff from there, fam. But I'll be posting stuff here and there and just getting out as much information as possible. Okay.
Hey, Paso, just make sure you stay out of any churches today. Okay. Just be careful.
Yeah, I wouldn't go into a church to protest anyway. So
Okay.
it's just asking for problems. It's not my style and stuff.
Okay.
I'd rather go and question a policymaker in a kind way, but give them a hard, stern question.
Absolutely.
And expose them like that. That's my style. But I'm not going to be like Fee either, getting arrested today, because I'm not like Che Guevara over here.
Because you're
Fee
milk
Guevara.
toast. I get it. Okay. All right. See ya.
Love you guys. I'll see you guys later. I'm going to the
All right,
street.
boss.
To the streets.
Yes.
All right. Matt, let's just go ahead and I think that was the last bit of that section. Unfortunately, we'll have to be watching what happens with Cuba and how they navigate around this, how Mexico also navigates around this. Mexico's president Claudia Sheinbaum has also stated that they're not going to be bullied with the United States on the narco issue and working with the military in Mexico. She stated that that's not going to happen, but they are working with the United States on other sectors. And as well as I think that the Mexican economy and the U.S. economy are very much intertwined, which is why there's always been like a fine line of workaround that I think hasn't existed with other Latin American countries, I would say, right? So
yeah.
it's a
Well,
bit
some say
different.
that she was hand selected to help issue in the digital ID state, and she's definitely cooperating with that one, and she's using it as a tool to, hey, we have to help the poor communities and get them all in this database. So she's doing that. I think that might be something that might have been interesting to get her in there to do that. That was something I saw. I know we've actually talked about that with Pasta, and he said, well, that might have been an oversight on her end. But I go, I don't know. I think she's kind of for it. This digital ID age, this supercomputer age. We'll see. But she's
well, you're not the first one to talk about it, or to mention it to me.
Yeah.
I agree. I think she is for it. I think a lot of Latin American leaders are for it and don't get it. And this comes from like the leftist. It's not talked about in those circles, like in the socialist, like leftist circles. They seem not to care about that, mainly because of China, because China has a lot of these things already. And so they see it as normal progression of whatever, and they don't see it as like an actual deterrent to this idea that they have, this ideology that they have, which I disagree with.
Well,
very much so.
Can we also attribute it to the last 6 years of the COVIDian mindset, that there's something about that we're all in this together, right? These are planted seed ideas that if you talk to lefties, liberals 10 years ago, they wouldn't have had this response. So they've been trained into this mindset that we have to help elevate each other, keep track of our medical records, keep track of everything, because you never know if you're going to need some help. We have to be able to access your information immediately, and we're all working together, to slow the curve and get us all back to normal. That's the thing, and that's why they're all on board for it. We don't really, they're not skeptical at all. And now you got the right on board, right? Because this is because of immigration and because of ICE. You have. Yeah, we have to keep track of everyone. It's we're all in this together. If you see something, say something. We're all on a grid. I feel safer because we have to protect ourselves from ourselves, right? So that you got both sides on it. And that leaves the few of us in this space to say, wait a minute, has everyone lost their minds? Why are we okay with any of this? So
it makes our job harder because what you just said is absolutely true. It's the same tactic used on two polarizing sides. Yeah. And it works on both of them. And then, it's actually kind of brilliant. Machiavellian, actually, how they've done it. It's really just insane, but it absolutely has worked on both ends. Matt, the other thing that is obviously on the radar is Iran, right? And the United States targeting Iran. Just a few moments ago, I got word that there were strikes in southern Lebanon launched by Israel. We also know that there have been ISIS attacks. ISIS has been released back into Iraq at a very timely manner. And of course, these things that are going on obviously are going to distract the axis of resistance, which is the last remaining sector, I think, of a lot of capable means to go after Israel, go after the United States in the Middle East. And so you have Donald Trump targeting Iran. All things are set up militarily for this to happen. He's basically saying that time is running out. And he's saying if you don't agree to denuclearize, essentially, then we're going to go for it. Now, Iran has hit back and said, if there is any attack from Israel, we will respond. The thing is, in Iran, there's the religious side, then there's the side that is political. And the current president and his administration are a lot more diplomatic and liberal than the religious aspect in Iran. So I just, in that sense, in that very generic, basic sense, so people understand, it is very, very unclear which one will win over. And let's just start with this article. So Iran is seeking to avert U.S. military action with talks in Ankara. So Turkey has been hosting mediations as they've been trying to act as a mediator. They're trying to basically convince Tehran to give in, right? That's what we're going to call mediation, because they play as mediation, but they're basically trying to convince Pezeshkian to give in, to basically say you're going to stop your nuclear development. You're developing your nukes. You're going to stop doing this and that. You're going to work with Israel. Iran's not going to do that. And like if it were up to Pezeshkian, maybe, but if it's up to the Ayatollah, that's just not going to happen. And again, there's various layers in Iran, and you'll see it. Like there's people who support the government. There's people who support the government but want reform. There's people who want full-on reform and don't support the government. It's just like in any other country. But the majority of people, what they don't support is Israel. And Israel is a large deterrent and a large also unifier for the people of Iran, right? And there's also meetings between Israel and Saudi Arabia that have been happening in Washington, which is very telling, because the Saudis have also been used to isolate Iran, to try to convince Iran to basically give in. And this was why, of course, now that they have Syria, this makes it easier to go after Iran. And this is why now they're attacking Lebanon. And I think based on what I'm seeing, we are set to be in a position to attack Iran. I think it's not going to be the same as we've seen before. I think it's going to be a strategic military strikes like the US likes to do, so they can say we're just doing an operation. And I think they're going to do targeted assassinations. And that's pretty much what they've flat out said. So Pete Hegseth actually also said that Iran has all the options to make a deal. They should not pursue nuclear capabilities, and we will be prepared to deliver whatever this president expects. So, any comments on that so far?
Well, yeah. So this is a playbook that, and I 100% agree. That's the next step of this. There's a blueprint to this, right? So we used to think, if you go back to, war on terror, the first Iraq thing, you had all these different conflicting narratives of why we were doing what we were doing. And at the time, like, okay, so we're bringing democracy, right? Or Saddam had something to do with 9/11, but now, oh wait, he didn't. Oh wait, weapons of mass destructions. Oh wait, we have to, get him over there so we don't get him here. It was just all over the place, a big mess. And I remember at the time thinking, God, that's a strike on our ability to control a narrative. That's not the case. The whole point is chaotic narratives that conflict. We do it with Venezuela, and now we're seeing it with Iran. Why go through? See, the I guess we say the critical thinking, rational part of my mind is thinking, why not just come up with a very clear narrative and get everybody on board with that? I think it's about creating confusion. So why go through this whole thing with Mike Pompeo? And we look at the people in Iran rising up. We have to go save them from this horrible regime, and they want us to come and help them, right? So it's the bringing democracy. But then you have this no, it's for nukes. It's for nukes. And then it's back to this. Now it's back to that. I think that this is how you get manufactured consent. You make it so confusing to people that they go, oh, something must be wrong over there. This seems right. All right. And you keep doing these Top Gun stories of it's just going to be a very specific operation. We're going to do this targeted thing. And then Trump's going to brag about it. We get it. We took him out. But this might be different in the sense that Iran's response, because they've said very clearly, even the most minuscule notion of any sort of just even the slightest bit of attack, they're going to take that as a full-on declaration of war. Now, is that just talk on their end, or are they preparing for something bigger than we saw the last time we did the little strikes and the little Top Gun moment from Trump? Do you see this ending a different way as far as Iran's response here?
So it's hard to say, because according to Iranian media, according to Press TV, and according to top Iranian diplomats, they're saying that they learned from the 12-day war not to give an inch, not to allow the enemy to basically trick them, or to basically give them any time to hesitate, because when that happened, then they ended up, getting the short end of the stick. They ended up actually having to do more the last time. And for a lot of people, like, they didn't do enough, right? They didn't retaliate enough. They could have retaliated much more. And this time they're saying, as you said, like, they're not going to hesitate. They're going to do something about it. So that's what they're saying. In the article by Press TV, there is one spokesperson for the Iranian armed forces who talks about not leaving any room for delay, and saying that if the enemy commits another foolish move and once again falls into miscalculation, we will respond instantly and in real time. We learned in the 12-day war that hesitation and giving the enemy time is absolutely unacceptable. The response must be immediate. And this has been formally communicated as a directive to the armed forces. And they basically are saying that they're not going to back down, right? And like I said, there's this military aspect in Iran that is very much driven by ideology. It's driven by their belief in sovereignty, in standing up to what they consider the Zionist U.S. empire. And they've also labeled, the EU has labeled the IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, a group of terrorists. Essentially, they've labeled them terrorists, and obviously Iran's not happy about that. They consider that detrimental to the EU. They consider it a big deal. What is also up at stake is the Strait of Hormuz, and how that is such a vital thing for the passage of energy transfer of gas and oil for the entirety of many regions, and how the entire world could fall into economic chaos because of the price of oil going up. And so this is why for Iran, it sits in a different position than other countries, because they have power, they have military power, they have years of experience. It's not going to be as easy to take them down. However, they also have both Israel and the United States targeting them. And it doesn't look like to me that I have seen any confirmation from China coming in. Russia's definitely not going to get involved. That's already been established. But China, again, in question, will China get involved? A lot of things on social media are saying that China is getting involved. And the only way I could see that happening is if there is an imminent threat to the Strait of Hormuz, which would completely destabilize and affect the Chinese economy. And in that way, they are going to try to avoid any sort of like war where this could happen. So that's the way I'm looking at it right now, right? And yeah, I do think that whether or not Iran acts. I think that the military and religious sector of Tehran is willing to act, but I do think that there's going to be every effort exhausted before they do, because that's just the nature of Iran. They're not like us. Again, whether it's China, Russia, all of these countries that the US has targeted, they're a lot more diplomatic than we are. And they always have been.
Yeah. Luckily for us, right? All of our enemies happen to be just so much more restraint and think things through and make calculated decisions. Isn't that good for us? That all of our crazy people that want to take over the world out there, they all seem to be very reserved when it comes to making decisions. Too bad we can't learn from them, and we can start doing that one day. We can start making reserved and calculated decisions, and not just so emotional and strike first, ask questions never. That's my new phrase there.
I love it because it's pertinent, because this next tweet I talk about how we keep getting about these lectures on Iran's international violation of human rights and the women and supporting liberty and freedom. But these people, they had to put the CIA and Mossad to manufacture these protests that really haven't done anything except be put on, like they put on fake statistics about all this stuff, blamed it on Iran and all of these things. Yeah, I mean, but what has that done internally to Iran? It really hasn't done much for them, right? But at the same time, we're killing Americans. Like, our police forces are killing Americans, and they're justifying that while saying that they care about these protesters in Iran. Guys, it doesn't get more comical than that. How do we care about protesters in Iran if we don't care about protesters in the United States? Be serious here. It can't be both. It really cannot be both, right?
Well, you mentioned the Mossad. This is so the reason we had the violence in Iran, the reason why 100 police and people were murdered by the Mossad in the crowd. The infiltration of the Mossad created that. So in a sense, in a weird cryptic way, yes, we got the backs of the Mossad. That makes sense. We don't get the backs of the actual people. That's how it works. So we elevate those people and we say, yeah, we're going to come to your rescue. Meanwhile, Minneapolis, we're literally murdering U.S. citizens. They just don't have as much value as I guess Iranians do, but particularly Mossad agents, because that's who we have to protect. Because that's who's getting the backlash from all the murdering of cops that are going on in Iran, in Tehran. So yeah, it's a twisted, bizarro world we're living in, and the fact that it's happening at the same time, and Trump's tweets are going out at the exact same time, condemning protests in Minneapolis, but saying let's come to the aid in Iran. It's beyond comical at this point. Fee, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, I feel like we're living in the upside down. I constantly say that in a cartoon, and whatever you want to say, it doesn't feel real, like this world. Sometimes it feels like it's a joke, like it's a Hollywood script. I honestly don't know how to describe it any other way. And we've always resorted to propaganda in the US to try to push for regime change and manufacture consent for war. But in the last few weeks, when we saw all of this leading up to this obvious war with Iran that the United States has been wanting for a long time, it was pretty uniform across the board. The insane numbers that we were getting about people being killed and saying that the Ayatollah killed all these people. I mean, it was insane. No, you couldn't believe it if you're a serious individual with half a brain. Like, I mean, it's just insane. So this tweet from Z Squirrel says, when you see any of the deranged Iran atrocity propaganda pieces being churned out in the New York Times, the Washington Post, Time, Reuters, AP, BBC, Guardian, just do a simple check, search for the author's Twitter account, and see their entire timeline filled with promotions of Israel lobby CIA fronts. Here's the Guardian's resident Iran atrocity propagandist, some deranged lunatic freak freelancer called Deepa Parent. And you can see her her basically all the things she talks about are this, right? So by the way, I've seen the job hiring requirements for the New York Times and for some of these outlets, they basically require you to have the narrative they want. They tell you specifically how you're going to cover it. That's not journalism, guys. That's PR. So you basically have to promote this perspective. That's PR. That's actually PR. That's not journalism. So it's no surprise to me that, this is what was there.
Yeah, I recommend people go check out Professor Morandi, who is in Tehran, like going on these mainstream networks. There was this one he went on in UK, and he spent 10 minutes calling out, like literally telling the audience right to the face of the woman, the anchor, saying, "This is everything you're telling me is fake. It's given to you by CIA through." She's like, but it's not fake. It's the numbers. We got the numbers. He's like, "You don't have any numbers. We don't. The Iranian government doesn't share those. So you're just making up numbers, and you're giving your talking points, and you're lying to your audience right now. I will tell you what actually is happening." And they went on for 10 minutes. I would recommend, checking out Professor Morandi. And he keeps his cool as this woman sits there pretending, like you said, she gets hired like all the rest of them. They get hired to learn how to present. It's theatrical, right? They learn how to present breaking news. Here are the numbers. We're getting these reports from the ground. They know they're lying. It's a script. These are actors. And so you have to keep your cool when you have a chance to go on there and maybe try and educate the audience a little. And I hope he has, because you keep your cool, you let them lie, and then you say, everything you just said was a lie. And I can tell you exactly how I know this, because I can fact check it right from here. And so that's good that we have people doing that, like Professor Morandi. Go check it out, guys, if you haven't yet.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's nice watching him kind of eradicate these morons live on TV. It's hilarious, actually. Another person that I actually also like to watch is David Miller. Now, David Miller made a tweet about this from Iran screenshot, how the terror started in Iran, intimidation, foreign-backed militants blocked roads and attacked motorists. The reason I'm sharing this now is a reminder as to what is leading us to this war with Iran, to save the Iranians from, this terrible Ayatollah, terrible lack of freedom. It's all fake. It's all manufactured. And I think some people still don't know that. Mossad terror cells and their accomplices caused chaos and casualties across Tehran on the 8th and 9th of January by throwing rocks, bricks, and concrete blocks from bridges at motorists passing below. Literally, by the way, the same playbook that agent provocateurs do and use in the United States to try to get the police to go after the protesters and say that they're being violent and starting riots. By the way, this was not a protest. It was a violent shock and awe operation designed to cause many deaths as possible in chaotic and unpredictable ways, irrespective of the politics of the victims. So don't be surprised that the tactics and the strategies of the Mossad and the intelligence apparatus look exactly the same when they're on our domestic soil in the United States as they do in Iran, because they are the same people. They're literally the same people. They're just in different locations, different mission, but same outcome.
Fee, we had that video. I think that was screenshotted there. I just uploaded it here. Let's play this, because this is actually what happened. There were some good Samaritans there. So this is if you want to, so they're on the highway's closed. So this is they're telling cars you can't go. You can't go. Why? Because don't go. He said, okay, they're throwing stuff. Go, man, see right up there. And so these are the Mossad agents right here. Guys, who's blocking there? They're not letting us pass. I was trying to get home and they threw a bunch of rocks at us. And if you go in there, they'll just shower you with rocks. You can't go in. Don't go in there. A few innocent cars were coming through and I stopped them. Wait, turn back. So this is the beginning of the chaos. Yeah, it's blocked. They're throwing rocks. Don't go, man. You'll get yourself killed. So he's saving lives here. Turn back. Wait. They're throwing rocks. So people got hurt really bad here on this bridge. Don't go. Oh man. So luckily there was these people were helping save people. But hey, what do you mean? They're really doing this. They're throwing rocks. Don't go. So this is a whole compilation. Yeah. So a bunch of cars come through, they throw rocks at them. I suggest you not go. Stop, don't go. So yeah, where are you going? It's dangerous. They've completely blocked the entrance, bro. What are they throwing over there? Well, they're iron rods, taking out like 10 cars. Oh my God. They threw it on the car. Yes, they threw it on the car. So yeah, it's the tire blew out. Oh my God. So this is like you said, this is the playbook. They shouldn't be doing this. No, bro, they threw rocks at us. Bro, I swear I got to go to the produce market. It's my work. It's my business. Man, I don't know. Don't make a U-turn. We're all shopkeepers here too. So there you go. So this is the exact blueprint of you create this chaos. These are Mossad agents doing this. And that's what started this whole thing out. So this was, footage from the ground. And luckily there was people there helping. So it wasn't more people getting attacked by these rocks and this just random innocent people that are trying to go to work and just have normal lives. And they get attacked by Mossad agents. I mean, the fact that our mainstream media, you think they're stupid, you think they missed it, you think they were sloppy, you think they slept in that day. They know this is happening, and their job is to not show us this. And that's why we're here, to show you guys what's really happening on the ground.
It's pretty obvious that it's not the government from Iran or the Ayatollah doing that. Like, it's just pretty obvious. That's not how they operate. That's how Israel operates. So it's how, U.S. deep state operates. Like it's very, I don't know. It's very obvious. A couple of things I want to show as we begin wrapping up here. Yeah, well, I just pointed out here on this tweet that the legacy media who denied the genocide of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians for 2 years, and remember, and push to be, by the way, the genocide's still ongoing, and push to beheaded babies fabrication, and claiming that tens of thousands of dead are the Iranian protesters, but they're also being killed by Iran. It doesn't make sense. Like, how are you going to trust these people at this point after everything they've lied about? Right? Like, they've constantly lied about all of this stuff. And this is why you basically can't trust them. So Marco Rubio said that 30 to 40,000 American troops are at risk in the Middle East because they are within range of Iranian missiles. That's what he's saying. So let's hear what little Marco has to say, if you can play that one.
On the issue of our presence in the region, here's the baseline I want to set for everybody. The baseline is this. We have 30 to 40,000 American troops stationed across 8 or 9 facilities in that region. All are within the reach. Theoretically, not theoretically, in reality, all are within the reach of an array of thousands of Iranian one-way UAVs and Iranian short-term ballistic missiles, so short-range ballistic missiles that threaten our troop presence. We have to have enough force and power in the region, just on a baseline, to defend against that possibility. That at some point, as a result of something, the Iranian regime decides to strike at our troop presence in the region. The president always reserves the preemptive defensive option. In essence, if we have indications that, in fact, they're going to attack our troops in the region, to defend our personnel in the region. We also have security agreements, the Defense of Israel Plan and others, that require us to have a force posture in the region to defend against that. On the issue of our presence in the region, here's the...
Matt, I have a question for you. Why does Iran have their country so close to our military base?
I was going to say, and the next time, we have burglars burglarizing houses, I just want everyone to know, they're the ones that are in danger from being attacked, right? They're the ones that we have to protect the lives of the people that are infiltrating other areas that they shouldn't be in to start with. But yeah, how dare they put their bases right near, or how dare they put their country right near our bases? The gall of them for doing that. Wow, the nerve.
So he's essentially blaming Iran for the future death of U.S. troops that they themselves are putting there in danger because they want to be there. I go back to, this is freaking comedy. This is ridiculous. I don't know whether to laugh or throw my hands up in despair every day, because the things coming out of the mouth of these morons are just insane. one more thing I want to show before we can just go. Reminder that Iraq's Maliki has been nominated for a new term officially, and Trump has warned Iraq about this. Again, this has to do with the fact that Maliki is very close to the resistance, and so Donald Trump doesn't like that. The U.S. doesn't like that. If they pick him again as his prime minister, they will no longer help the them in their oil production. So this is how they do it. They bully through. So again, I just wanted to mention that because that's a huge part of what's coming, what's happening right now in the region. Watch Iraq, watch Lebanon, and watch what's going on in Iran. And Matt, do you have anything coming up for you any time soon?
Well, yes, I'm actually gonna today. I guess in about an hour and a half, I'm going to be on with Garland Nixon. We're going to be talking about the TikTok capture and everybody moving up onto Upscrolled. We're going to do a little deep dive into that one together. Some new stuff with TPUSA and all the other I mean, it's all the same stuff. We're talking about the propaganda machine and the divide and conquer, and that's happening today at noon Pacific, 3 Eastern on the Garland Nixon show, and then we'll be back with the Homeless Left next week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, our regular scheduled show, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern.
All right, guys. I'll look out for Matt and also for me on my Substack. And I did a few interviews this week. Two of them, one's already out and one will be out shortly. It was with an Iranian channel in the UK, and I'll share the links when they're out. So and we'll be back Monday for more TruthWire. We'll see you soon. Bye, guys.